Hi everybody, this is Julie Maurer. I'll be your host for our webinar tonight, but I do need to make sure that everyone can hear me. Please let me know if you are able to hear me. You can either just type chat yes in the chat box. Would probably be the easiest. Oh, we got a yes. Thank you. Okay, I'm getting some yeses, so it sounds like we're connected to the technology. Thanks everyone. Thanks for sharing part of your, I guess it's Thursday, isn't it? Thursday night with me. We're going to talk about CNOR recertification for this year. I know that you are being proactive on recertifying your credential. I appreciate how important this is for you. You've probably heard about some changes that are coming down the pike, and I'm going to provide information about that, hopefully clear up any misconceptions, let you know how exciting these changes can be for your professional development. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Julie Maurer, and I am the nurse manager here for education development at CCI. I am one of 3 nurses on staff. When I first started 10 years ago, I thought that everybody who worked at CCI was a nurse, but that's not true. We're actually in the minority for CCI, but we obviously serve a very important function in making sure that our certifications reflect actual practice and keeping up with standards. And evidence-based practice does not apply just to you working in the clinical setting. It applies to us as well. So we'll be talking about that in terms of recertification methods here in a little bit. I am recording this webinar. If you have friends or coworkers who are not able to attend tonight, please let them know this will be up on our website or on YouTube. I would give it Monday for sure. It'll be available for you. Just a couple housekeeping details. You have already found the chat box or the question box. If you have questions or comments, I will be taking those periodically throughout the webinar and certainly at the end. I have probably a good half hour, 40 minutes worth of content. After that, I'll be answering questions, and I will stay on until all the questions have been answered. Please limit your questions to recertification, and that will help us maximize our time. And I appreciate if you need to leave before we finish answering questions. I get that, but because we are recording this, you'll be able to come back and pick up anything that you may have missed. If you need any additional information or support, please call us at 888-257-2667. This will connect you with our amazing customer service folks. If you tried to call around the New Year's holiday, that is our busiest time of year, and we tended to triage our calls. If you were not due to recertify until 2019, you may have been asked to wait a little bit while we took care of the folks that were recertifying in 2018 and whose credential would lapse if they weren't able to do that. So we're 2019, you are our priority now, and our customer service folks can help you with things like getting into your account, logging your points, your contact hours. They are actually much more adept at that, navigating the website than I am. I have beginning competency. How's that in our website? So if there's very technical calls, you've got a duplicate account, things like that, Ty and Danny are better suited for handling those types of questions than I. I'm not sure that I'm talking about anything that we sell other than recertification tonight, but this is a disclaimer that you certainly aren't required to purchase any products from us. We have started some recertification activities that you can use towards points, and the ones that we have on our website are free, so we're not running into a conflict there. but we just have this disclaimer for any presentations that we give just to cover us. Our objectives for tonight, we're going to review eligibility requirements for recertification, and we're going to look at the methods of recertification. We're going to look at some other options for managing your CNOR credential, and we're going to talk about those exciting future changes to Recert. When we talk about recertification, we are basically saying that this should demonstrate continued competency. Some of you have been certified for a long time, and you know that your practice has changed, healthcare has changed, your patient populations have changed, your role may have changed. And thinking that things are the same as when you certified initially and using those same methods for recertification may no longer be the best way to demonstrate that continued competency. I think that all of us who hold CNOR value it from a personal perspective, but from an accreditation standpoint, the purpose of certification is to protect the public. It's to provide safe care to our patients. Some secondary reasons for recertification is to advance the nursing profession. We just talked about how things evolve and change, and certification is one of those ways to not let things be static and the same, but to reflect those changes as well, and then to ensure the integrity of professional nursing. It just came out, in the last month that nurses are once again, and no surprise there, the most trusted profession in the United States. And certification is one of those ways that we help to ensure the integrity of our profession. Continued competence means that we have levels of knowledge, skills, or abilities, not just at the time of initial certification, but also throughout our professional career. And this is our challenge, not just from a practitioner standpoint, but from a certification standpoint, is what does continued competency look like, and then how do we demonstrate it? And probably the most difficult thing of all is how do we measure it? Here's our recertification eligibility criteria. Obviously, you have to hold a current CNOR certification, and you also have to have a current unrestricted RN license. You can't have any, it can't be suspended or have any sanctions or limitations on it. You also have to be currently employed, and it doesn't matter how much. Some of you may be, giving a lunch relief a couple times a week. You've cut back on your hours. That's okay. You just have to be currently employed, full, part-time, per diem, doesn't matter, in perioperative nursing in one of four categories. And we appreciate that when you first got your CNOR, you were providing direct patient care most of the time. As your profession has evolved and you've changed and taken advantage of other opportunities, you may have gone into one of these other three roles: nursing education, administration, or research. That's probably one of the most common questions that I get is, I'm now a surveyor for Joint Commission, or I work in infection prevention, or informatics. And it may not look like you fit into any of these roles, but what we want to see is that what you're doing is impacting the surgical patient, okay? So we want to have 500 hours of perioperative nursing in the past 5 years. In your recertification cycle, you need to have 500 hours. And this is actually one of the most lenient requirements. If you look at other specialties, they require many more hours than this. So you're getting kind of a good deal here. At least 250 of the 500 hours must be in one of those following areas and have an impact on patient care during the intraoperative period. So let's say you're in management now. You're a director, you're a CNO, you really don't see the inside of an OR anymore. But what do? You are signing off on policies that influence the way your perioperative nurses practice. You may be hiring people who take care of patients. So just because you're not actually providing that hands-on care doesn't mean that you are not eligible. If you have any questions about eligibility, please, please, please call me. And I've got my information at the end of the slides. I hate to have people think that that they're not eligible and they let their credential go when they really are. And we'll talk about some of those other options as well, but please think seriously about what you're doing right now and does it meet this criteria. Okay, you've got right now 3 options, and we'll talk about accrual periods. If you're due to recertify in 2019, here are your choices, and these really haven't changed much in the last, 5 years. We've added points, and that may be new to you, but the contact hours, 125 contact hours, boy, we've had that forever. Points is a new option or a newer option that I think a lot of people don't think about. If you've been doing contact hours for the last 5 or 6 cycles, that's sort of what you tend to concentrate on. But the points is a really nice alternative where you are given credit for things that you're doing every day. I had a gentleman that I talked with over the holidays who was worried that he would not be able to recertify. I said, what do you do? He said, well, I'm a director. I said, okay. So he pulled out the list of points. I said, you are on, I know, a boatload of committees. Well, yes, I am. And we looked through the list. He'd gone back to school. He had some classes he could count. He had done some presentations. We had no trouble pulling together 300 points for him, and he was able to recertify his CNOR. He was a happy guy, and I was glad that he was taking credit for things that he was doing well, and then he could apply that toward his recertification. So please, 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 for many reasons, and we'll be talking about points in more detail in a little bit, but really look at this as a viable alternative to contact hours. Or you may take the exam again, and this is obviously our least popular option, but it is available for you to recertify. Now, there's a couple of other options. Some of you may know now, I didn't get enough stuff together in my 5-year accrual window. I'm going to have to think about some other choices. One of them is to file for an extension year, and one of them is to retire your credential. So these are the other 2 options, and we're going to talk about all of these in detail. I'm going to stop for just a minute and see if we've got any questions that I can help with. Don't see anything there. Let's see about the questions. In and out. Okay. If you're having trouble hearing me, you might want to have if you're using your computer, you might want to switch to your phone. I will try to move my speakers so that I am speaking more consistently into it. Okay. Here's our accrual period for contact hours and points. If you are due to recertify this year, 2019, your accrual period for your recertification activities began January 1st of 2014 through, 2014. I'm sorry, there's a typo on the slide. 2014 through December 31st of 2018. So 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, that's a 5-year accrual period, and that's when you could have earned your contact hours or your points activities. Please don't think that you had to have everything logged in by December 31st of last year. You just had to have them accrued. You had the whole year of 2019 to put things into your account. We like to reward people who are proactive. So if you recertify before July 1st, you get a $75 discount. But your you can wait until December 31st if you want to recertify. If you're due to recertify next year, your accrual period will end December 31st of this year. And then you'll have until July 1st of 2020 to apply for the discounted recertification fee. But again, your credential is good until December 31st of 2020. And I apologize, I missed that date when I was updating things this morning. Your accrual period for recertification activities was January 1st of 2014 through December 31st of 2018 if you are due to recertify this year. And I'll fix that slide before it's posted. Okay, here's how much things cost. People are interested in that. So here's the prices. We talked about having a discount. So there's our discount. You get a $50 discount. The emeritus fee is one time, $125. I had people keep trying to give me money at the end of the year who retired their credential a year or two ago. No, it's a one-time fee. You only do it once, and you don't have to do contact hours or any kind of recertification activities. You retired your credential. You worked hard your entire career. It's time to relax and enjoy retirement now. So that's what the emeritus does for you. The extension, please, before you pull the trigger on the extension, make sure that you can't retain your credential another way. Extension does give you the opportunity to add another year on to get your contact hours or points, but it does cost. And I get that this is expensive, and I don't want you to spend money if you don't have to. So we'll talk about extension, but it's $195, and then when you recertify, you have to pay that fee as well. So it's a nice option. It keeps you from losing your credential, but there is a charge involved with that. So let's look at each of these categories. Contact hours, 125 hours. 75 of those 125 hours must be related to perioperative nursing. Our new program does not allow you to designate which of those hours are peri-op, like our old system did. But if you are audited, that's one of the things that we look at, is making sure that 75 of those contact hours have to be related to perioperative nursing. And there's a wide variety. I mean, anything you get through Fiedler or AORN or one of your vendor reps, those are all perioperative. Anything that helps you do a better job taking care of your patients. So if you're doing hearts and you go to a course on diabetes or hypertension, those certainly are comorbidities that you see in your patient population. So don't think that it has to be on, positioning or prepping or, an intraoperative task. It can be a pathophysiological type of condition that you see in your patient population. All contact hours have to be earned through an accepted provider, and that list is on our website. And this is an online application process, and I'm going to show you at the end. I have some screenshots for you, and I'll help you at least become familiar with what it looks like on our website. We did change our website, it was a year ago, just this last December. It was December of 2017. It was a little bit painful. If you've had people talk about that, most of the bugs have been smoothed out, but it may look different than the last time you were in if you haven't been into your account in 4 years. So be prepared for some changes there, but again, that's why we're here to help you. Recertification by points, this actually will come up on the same screen as your contact hours, and you'll click on contact hours or points, and the points will come up and allow you to pick from, oh boy, I think we've got about 11 categories now, and you'll just list those things just like you would listing a course for your contact hours. And I should mention with the contact hours, doggone, I forgot. If you've got contact hours from AORN, if you it went to Expo or something else that was an AORN-sponsored contact hour offering, and you filled out your evaluation there, those contact hours can be brought over to your CCI bucket. We are not part of AORN, so it's not going to automatically populate, but we do have a button on the contact hour page that says import AORN hours, and you click that, and everything from your AORN courses will come into your CCI bucket. And that saves you from having to put things in twice. Okay, here's recertification by points. The accrual window for activities, January 1st, 2014 through December 31st, 2018. So if you're using activities, the accrual window is the same as through contact hours. All of the activities have a cap on them except for academic credits. So if you're going back to school and you're going to school full time, I believe if you take 5 or 6 classes, that will translate into 300 points. There's a conversion rate for semester and quarter hours, and those hours add up pretty quickly, and you can use every single one of your classes in the points activities. So if you go into school, please don't spend extra money for contact hours. You can use everything that you're from your academic credits, if they're fall into this accrual window, towards your points. We will accept 50 contact hours, and that translates into 100 points. So a third of your points can continue to be contact hours. We're not taking contact hours entirely away, but we're looking at, this shouldn't be the only way that we're demonstrating continued competency. So you can go ahead and use 50 contact hours if you're using your points method for recertification. You do not do both. You don't need to do 125 contact hours and 300 points. It's one or the other. So don't feel like you have to do both. Okay, and here's a list of some of the points activities. We talked about continuing education through contact hours. That can be up to 100 points. Academic study we talked about is unlimited. And here's all of these other things. Not all of us teach, not all of us publish, not all of us present, but a lot of us volunteer on committees. We precept. We've got another accredited perioperative certification. So if you have a CSSM or CPAN or a sterile processing certification, you can count those. If you've worked on a QA project, if you're helping with audits, all of those things. You don't have to have PhD behind your name to contribute towards evidence-based practice or a QI or QA project. If you are volunteering, if you help with Project Cure or Doctors Without Borders, or you go to Vietnam or Guatemala or whatever for one of those surgical mission trips, that counts. We've just started partnering with a couple of our vendors where their continuing education offerings will be on our website that you can take advantage of. We've got case studies now and some games. We're really expanding this list all the time. And there's Dawn, my director, has a couple of committees. That's all they do is look at what else we can use for points activities. So please don't feel that you're restricted in your ability to use points. If you do use this method for recertification or are interested in using this, please, 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 if you are audited, you will be asked to submit the documentation to support that, yes, I'm going back to school, here's my transcript. Yes, I served on a committee, here are the minutes with my name on them. This could be painful if you don't have the ability to back up what your activities were that you stated that you were doing. So please, please, just as you're going along and you're moving into your next research cycle now, it's a good way to start out clean and fresh rather than, cleaning out your locker on December 31st of 2023 and trying to find the documentation and the evidence. Just keep track of it starting from the very beginning, and you'll be in a good place. Okay, recertification by exam. This is, again, an online application. Now, your opportunity to test is a little bit limited because if you're due to recertify this year, you have to have taken and passed the exam by December 31st in order to maintain your credential. So that's a little bit different than if you were certifying and you had, the 3-month window. We're looking at a hard stop date here. Here's your testing windows. Up until September, you apply in 1 month, and your testing months are the next 3 months. Beginning October, your testing months are November and December, and November, it's only the month of December. So please, please, please do not paint yourself into a corner, cut yourself short, and find out that you're only able to test in December if you wait too long. So this is a really good time. I'm so glad so many people are on tonight. This is a really good time to take stock of where I'm at right now. Some of you may be in a really good spot, and some of you may be looking at some of these other alternatives. But it's January. You've got time to figure this out. So I don't want anybody to feel stressed or anxious about this process. Now, here's the application process. When you go into CCI-institute.org, this is our home page, and this is what you're going to see. And if you haven't been in for a while, it may look different, and that's okay. There's a login button that you're going to click, and it's going to come to this page. What it's going to ask you to do is log in with your email and your password. If you've forgotten your password, there's a place to click on, and it'll allow you to reset it. Please, 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 and I helped a lot of people with this the end of last year, do not create another account. If you do this, then it makes it very difficult to figure out which account is getting your contact hours or points, and it really messes us up, and we end up having to, delete one account. And so if you've changed places of employment, you've got another email address, use the email address that you used to set up your original account. And again, if you forgot your password, which I do all the time, it'll allow you to reset it. If you're having trouble, if you get to this page and you're going, you know what, I need some help with this, that's what our customer service folks are doing, and they are so good at this. So don't swirl and don't get frustrated. But you're going to need to log into your account, and then you're going to see this page. And you're going to see this blue bar is really the money shot here. And this is Dawn's account. But what you're going to want to do, you want to click on My CNOR. Okay, that's the account we're concerned with. And here's what's going to happen. You're going to have a choice between points and contact hours. And this is actually, we're going to come back to this screenshot because you're really not applying for certification yet. You are going to look at this continuing education button right here. Okay? If you want to request emeritus status, this is the button that you use. This is part of the dashboard, and these are all the requirements that we talked about. You have a current license. You need to have your continuing education completed, whether it's either points or contact hours, and your experience. A lot of people will go ahead and fill out their continuing education, and they'll find out, you know what, it's not letting me recertify. You need to update your license, and you need to update your experience before it'll let you pull the trigger and pay and recertify. So make sure that you complete all 3 of these buttons before you worry about paying. Okay, here's continuing education, and it'll actually
If you click on this, you can see that you have a choice between contact hours or points, and it will actually pop. It will actually fill in your contact hours for both points and contact hours, but it'll stop at that 50 contact hours. If you're doing contact hours, it'll bring up the list that you just fill in your hours until you get to 125. There is no extra credit, okay? So once you get to 125, this bar will turn green and you're done, okay? Some people keep trying to add things. You don't need to. When you get to the green, you're done. The points, the same thing. You will fill out your activities and it'll pull up the individual activities. You fill those out. When you get to 300 points, again, stop. No extra credit. Here's where you can report. When you click on the Continuing Education button, you can either report your contact hours, and here's some examples of that, or you can report your points. So you'll be clicking on one of these two buttons as you fill in your log. Okay, now we are ready to, okay, this is what the contact hours will look like. It'll ask you to put in the program title, the provider, whether it's ANCC or California State Board of Nursing, whoever that is. It'll ask you, was this through your hospital? Who is actually providing this? And then it'll have a drop-down box with the subject area, the date completed, and the hours. And then you'll put submit. And you'll need to do this for every class that you take, or every course, every continuing education contact hour session. Again, if you are working through AORN, you can just import those over into the list. You can use your academic credit for contact hours. The conversion rate, you just click on this and put in the number of semester hours, and it'll automatically transfer that to contact hours or points. But again, if you've been going to school a lot, don't even mess with this contact hours thing. Go straight to the points and see if you can't get 300 points that way. Okay, here's an example of the points. Continuing education, again, it's going to tell you what the limit is over here. So we talked about you can only have 100. Here, Dawn reported 239. It's not going to take them. It's going to stop at 100. So there's no point. If you're using points to keep putting in contact hours, it's going to stop. And that's true for all of them. There's limits for all of the activities except for academic study. And look at unlimited. So you can click on this. It'll ask for the class and the number of semester or quarter hours, and it'll automatically change those to points. If it's a semester, it's worth 15 points for every semester hour. If it's a quarter system, it's 10 points. They add up really fast. So take advantage of going back to school. Make that work for you. Here's an example of the precepting mentoring activity. Again, where were you when you were mentoring? The mentee's name and the time that you were precepting them. And you can precept up to 4 people for a total of 100 points. Again, if you're doing this all the time and it's 10 or 15 people, it's not going to take them. You're limited to 100 points for precepting. And again, fill this out and put save. Okay, I'm gonna pause for a minute and see if anybody has any questions about the different methods of recertification. Okay. Oh, we've got some good questions. Thank you so much. The first question is, what is the benefit of retiring your CNOR?
retiring your CNOR is probably the best option if you are no longer working in the perioperative setting. And sooner or later, all of us are going to end up retiring. If you are no longer eligible to hold the CNOR, it's time to retire it. And if you go on emeritus status, you are still able to use that CNOR with a capital E in parentheses on your name badge, if you're still working, on your correspondence, if you're publishing, anytime you're using your title, you can still use that CNOR with the E in parentheses. If you look at your AORN journals, a lot of our seasoned nurses, I know Trish Seifert has retired her CRNFA, for example, but it still it allows you to keep your credential. It's no longer active, but it's still yours, and it still shows that you were committed to that part of your profession. If you just let your credential lapse, you are no longer able to use CNOR in any capacity. It's gone away. So that's the advantage to maintaining that emeritus status. And again, it's a one-time fee. You don't have to keep up with any recertification activities or any cost, but it does allow you to be recognized. I hope that answered your question. Okay, the second question is, if you are due to recertify in 2020, will the new changes affect me? We are just about getting ready to delve into that part of the presentation. But to answer your question, no. No one will have to change the way they want to recertify during their recertification cycle. So even if you recertified this year, those changes would not affect you in your next research cycle. We want to make sure everybody's got lots of time and feels really comfortable with the new system. We're not asking anybody to change their method of recertification in the middle of their cycle. Good questions. Good questions. Okay, let me see if there's anything in the chat box. Nope. Okay, here we go. Extension year. This is the last choice that we have, last option. This is for the folks who, for whatever reason, could not meet that December 31st, 2018 deadline for accruing things. So if you can file for an extension year, you need to do that this year. And most of you probably already know if you are able to recertify or not. So this is something to think about. You are able to then extend your accrual window to, and that should be December 31st, 2019. Boy, I didn't do a very good job here, did I? And then you will then recertify in 2020. So you'll have until the end of this year to recertify. And then you would recertify in 2020. The nice thing about the extension year is you're still able to use your CNOR. Nobody needs to know that you had to extend your research program. So this is a good thing for people who, for whatever reason, aren't able to meet those requirements for contact hour or points accrual. Okay. Emeritus status, we just got through talking about this. No longer working in perioperative nursing, no longer meet the eligibility requirements. One-time online application fee. You can continue to use your CNOR with that E in parentheses. You have to apply while the credential is active. For both extension and emeritus, you'll need to do it this year before December 31st. For the emeritus status, I do need you to be very well aware that to get your credential back, you would have to take the exam. You cannot get it back by either points or contact hours. So that's something to think about. Make really sure that this is what you want to do before you pull the trigger.
Okay, let's look at changes to CNOR recertification. We have typically used contact hours for both licensure and recertification. It's easy. It's quantifiable. You sit for an hour, you get a piece of paper that says you sat for an hour. It's easy to track. It's easy to verify. If we say, did you attend Expo, you can hand us the printout. The downside to contact hours is that there's nothing that says that it really does anything to improve our practice, that it makes us better nurses, that we're providing safer patient care. It's easy, but there's no evidence that it improves outcomes. So when we look at, from an accreditation standpoint for CCI, and we have a lot of the same types of rules that you do for Joint Commission or DNV, whoever accredits your facility, we have the same people looking at us and going, you know what, is this best practice? There's no science behind this. We've been doing it this way for 40 years. Is it making a difference? We can't show that it is. And that's what helped precipitate the changes that we're making. We have to look at an approach that incorporates a variety of activities that best demonstrates your practice. Nobody does contact hours for a living. You don't do that for a living. You're taking care of patients, or you're managing an OR, or you're managing an SPD, or you're making electronic management record programs for the OR. You're not doing contact hours. So how can we incorporate what you do into the recertification method? And that's when we started looking at moving to the point system. We're not the first ones who've done this. The doctors have actually been on board with this since the mid-'70s. It used to be when doctors passed their boards, that was it. They never had to do continuing education or anything for the rest of their lives. And that changed when we started looking at how fast our healthcare changes, practice changes. Did you want somebody from the Civil War era doing things the same way in 1970? No. So we looked at what other people were doing. We looked at our surgeon partners. We looked at other specialty nursing organizations, and they are doing activity-based recertification methods. Our partners up north in Canada, they're requiring relicensure through activities. So it's not just certification, it's their nursing license. They're requiring activities in a portfolio. So this is the wave of the future. We weren't the first ones, but this is the trend that we're seeing. Our recertification methods have to be able to reflect continued provision of safe patient care practices. And people are doing research all the time that we want to be able to say people who are certified provide better patient care, and we want to be able to back that up with recertification methods that demonstrate that. So when is this going to happen? If you've got people in your facilities who are planning to test this year, or if you're an educator or you're a manager on board tonight, anybody who tests this year, the only option that they have for recertification is going to be through points, okay? No current CNOR will have to change their recert methods during their existing accrual period. So nobody on the phone call tonight is going to be asked to do points for their recertification. You can choose whichever method you like, okay? But recognizing that if you are going to be recertifying in the future, the next cycle you may be looking at the points method. I would ask you to start looking at this now. Do a kind of a test run and start looking at, keep a log, keep a book or, something in your locker that says, Start tracking your professional activities now. We've got a sample log on our website, and whether you recertify next year or recertify 5 years from now, you have time to start getting used to the changes. So we're not asking you to make huge changes. We recognize that people have been doing contact hours for a long time. That's familiar. That feels safe. Is it best for our profession? We've decided that it's not. But again, it's not going completely away. We talked about you can still get a third of your points through contact hours. Here's a sample of the log. You can print this out and fill it out and keep track of things, okay? And just kind of practice starting to do that now. Look at your practice. Look at things that maybe you'd like to start doing. That this gives you the little bit of impetus or push. You know, I'd like to go back and just take a class. You don't have to be in a whole program, but I'd like to take a class on physical assessment, or I'd like to take a class on evidence-based practice. Make sure that you submit your application, no matter how you are going to recertify. Make sure it's done before your credential lapses December 31st of 2019. Test drive the points option. Just try it on for size. See what it looks like. If you're having difficulties, now is a good time to figure out what those pain points are, and contact us with questions so that we can help you. I did let you know that this is being recorded. It probably won't be available until Monday, but it can be. It'll be up on YouTube and also on our website on the webinar tab. Here are some other webinars. We offer usually a couple, 3 a month, but they're different topics. February 7th, we're talking about CSSM recertification. So if you have also hold CSSM or your manager does, please let them know that this is a resource for them that they can take advantage of. Just our regular CNOR certification webinar will be February 13th. And then February 21st, this is probably our least well-known certification, but our CNSCP for our advanced practice clinical nurse specialist colleagues, we've also got a new method for certification for them. It's moving from exam to portfolio. So if you've got a CNS who's certified in, or if you have a CNS in your perioperative department, this might be a good webinar for them to get some good information on as well. Okay, here are Dawn and I email addresses. Please, 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 if you have questions about recertification, now's the time to ask. Now is the time to ask. I am going to see what questions we have. We talked about retiring. Okay, staff in small hospitals will have a difficult time with the point system. And I hear you. I worked in ambulatory surgery for probably 10 years. We didn't have committees, and we didn't have some of the opportunities that I get it, that the larger facilities will have. First of all, you can still get 100 points with contact hours. There are opportunities to volunteer with CCI. There are opportunities to volunteer with your specialty organizations, AORN and others. And there are certainly opportunities, and these are free on our website, that you can fill up the rest of those hours with the opportunities on our website. So yes, it's going to take a little bit of a stretch for some folks. If you work in a clinic, if you work for a surgeon, there may not be as many opportunities, but there are enough opportunities to recertify using the points method. And by the time you're due to recertify, there's going to be lots more options than there are right now. We're looking at allowing BLS and ACLS, which historically we didn't allow if it didn't come with contact hours. We're changing our stance on that. So you'll be able to get points for that. You will be able to. You will be able to. Okay. But good question, and I hear you. Yeah, not able to be on committees. Yeah. Planning to here's a lucky person planning to retire, but wants to continue to work part-time for a while. I recertify in 2020, and will have all my continuing education credits. Can I apply for, you know what, if you're still working, and she's saying, I'm planning to retire, but I'm going to still work part-time. If you're going to work at all where you are eligible to maintain your CNOR, I would recommend you maintain your CNOR. I counsel a couple of people who were going, you know what, I'm part-time, but I'm still working. If you're still working, keep your CNOR. Keep your CNOR. I know I just recertified last year, and I'll probably put it on emeritus in 5 years because I'll probably be retired by then. But if you're still working in 2020, even though you're going to retire within that 5-year window, after that, I'd keep it active as long as I could, and that's my recommendation. Once you let it go, whether you retire it or you let it lapse, it's tougher to get it back. So I would, if you're still working, keep it. Okay. That was the last question. I know that emeritus, we've seen a huge upswing in people that are retiring their credential because, we've got a lot of people that are in the workforce right now that are not going to be working much longer. So that's certainly a viable option for you. But if you have any questions about which route to take, give me a call. And we'll figure out what's best for you. Okay. Let's see if I've got anybody in chat that I've been neglecting. Nope. Okay. Going to check the questions one more time. Okay, and I just want to clarify, if you retire your credential, that doesn't mean you can't work anymore. But if you are working, you may want to keep your credential active. I don't see any more comments or questions, but you've got my email. That's why I'm here, is to help answer your questions. I've enjoyed talking with you. Thank you for sharing your evening with me and being so committed to your professional practice and certification and the value. Have a great evening and a good weekend. Good night.